Today we're going to talk about the different parliamentary abilities that you are required to know in Ag Mechanics 2. You can find these on the table of parliamentary abilities. This table can be found on Blackboard. It's also in the FFA manuals within our classroom. Each of these types of motions is grouped by type. The first type and the highest ranking type are privileged motions. So these privileged motions take precedence over all other motions. So that means that we could be talking about going to FFA camp, and someone could make any of the three privileged motions, and they don't pertain to going to FFA camp, but they are still relevant. And those three are adjourn, recess, and question of privilege. You can follow along on the table, and it will show you whether a second is required, whether it is debatable, amendable, or whether or not it can be reconsidered. It also gives you a quick rundown of what vote is required and the purpose of it. The next highest ranking type of motion are subsidiary motions. And subsidiary motions are applied to other motions and assist in handling the business in a more orderly manner. So a lot of times these subsidiary motions will either change the motion or will change the way in which the motion is handled. For example, lay on the table will allow you to bring that motion up at a later meeting. So maybe you need more information, and this will give you time to go get that information. Previous question, it changes the way in which we handle that motion, because if passed, previous question will stop members from being allowed to debate that motion. That motion does require a 2/3 vote, and the reason that it takes a 2/3 vote is because it's taking away the rights of the members to be able to discuss the motion. Refer to a committee changes how we handle that motion, because the motion itself gets sent to a committee to study and either report back or act on that motion. Amend changes items in the main motion. It could change time, it could change place, depending on the motion. The main ways that we amend a motion are by adding, striking out, or substituting words. When you do amend a motion, you do have to make sure that it is still germane. And germane is just a fancy way for saying that it doesn't change the original intent of the motion. For example, you cannot insert the word not and it be an amendment. So if we were saying that we were going to FFA camp this year, you could not have an amendment that is that we are not going to FFA camp. That motion would be not germane. Main motions. Main motions, all they do is introduce new main motions. You do have to make sure that there is no other motion pending when a main motion is made. So the floor has to be completely empty, and we only take on one main motion at a time. Incidental main motions, Incidental main motions are something that you're using to address something that has happened in the meeting. So, point of order, appeal, those are things where if something has happened in the meeting that is incorrect, you use those motions to correct that. Point of order, you're just pointing out something that has happened. These are things that only happen if the need arises. Division of the House, if the chairperson took a voice vote on a motion and you felt that they ruled improperly, then you would use a division of the House to make sure that that's a counted vote. All right, and then we have 3 unclassified motions. Those are take from the table. So if we tabled it like we talked about earlier, this would be how you brought it back before the group. Reconsider. Reconsider brings something that has already passed or failed in the same meeting and brings it back to be reconsidered. And then rescind. Rescind completely does away with something that has been voted on. So I encourage you to look over this chart We will be using this chart and the motions contained in it whenever we do any practice parliamentary procedure demonstrations, and the motions found on this chart will be a part of your Unit 1 test.